Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. To kick things off, I want you to just picture a scenario for a second. Imagine being part of a super small, heavily under-equipped force, sailing out onto the open ocean. You're commanding this sluggish, rotting, converted merchant vessel, right? And you look across the water, only to see the undisputed global superpower of the age bearing down on you in a brand new, heavily armed warship. I mean, the odds are entirely against you. The equipment is against you. History, it seems, is completely against you. But what if the deciding factor in a scenario like that isn't actually the size of your ship or the number of your cannons, but something much, much deeper? Today, we're exploring the extraordinary historical example of John Paul Jones. And through his story, we're going to unpack the true essence of moral leadership as presented in our source material. Okay, let's dive into this. The source text roots this entire story in a really foundational concept. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. This idea suggests that true leadership, the kind that literally alters the course of history, requires a foundational moral courage. According to this framework, it's not just about knowing tactics or having physical strength, it's about a deep spiritual fortitude. And honestly, this perfectly sets the stage for our historical figure today. We're talking about a man who stared absolute defeat right in the face and absolutely refused to blink, drawing on a courage that the source attributes to something far stronger than just his immediate, terrifying circumstances. So here is our lesson plan for today. We'll be looking at the father of the American Navy, what happened when he faced the mighty Serapis, the incredible power of morale, and finally, how morality and education actually combine.
All right, jumping into Section 1, Father of the American Navy.
So history remembers John Paul Jones as the father of the American Navy. During the American Revolution, the young United States was fighting for its very right to exist. They were taking on the British Empire, which, let's remember, had the most formidable and powerful navy on the entire planet at the time. It's wild to think about, but without strong, determined military leaders like John Paul Jones, the United States might literally never have won its independence. The whole cause hung by a thread, and it desperately required commanders who fought with just unmatched, unrelenting determination to keep that dream of independence alive out on the high seas.
What's really interesting about this breakdown is how it frames our core questions for today: the who, the why, and the how of military strategy. We know the who, he's a revolutionary commander. But the why and the how, that is where the magic of leadership actually lives. We aren't just learning history to memorize a bunch of facts. We're trying to extract the blueprints of how determination can literally rewrite the outcome of an impossible situation. And to see that in action, we really need to look at his most famous battle.
Which brings us to Section 2, Facing the Mighty Serapis. I want you to put yourself right in the middle of this for a second. Imagine you're a sailor on John Paul Jones's ship. The battle is raging all around you. The noise is totally deafening. Your ship is heavily damaged, taking on water, and literally catching fire. And right across from you is the British ship, the Serapis, this massive, powerful vessel just pounding you with cannon fire. By any logical metric, your situation is completely hopeless. The enemy commander calls out through the smoke, asking if you are ready to surrender. In that exact moment of absolute peril, what do? Do you give up? Well, in response to that demand for surrender, standing on a sinking, burning deck, John Paul Jones famously shouts back, "I have not yet begun to fight." Just think about the immense energy, the sheer audacity of that statement. In a moment where literally everything screamed defeat, his supreme confidence and absolute courage just shattered the despair. This singular moment of bravery was electric. It instantly rallied his entire crew. Suddenly, they didn't see a sinking ship anymore. They saw a commander who genuinely believed they could still win. And because he believed it, they believed it too. They fought back with renewed fury, actually boarded the enemy vessel, and, against all odds, defeated the Serapis.
So, the crucial point here is that this wasn't just one lucky battle. These victories were a psychological earthquake. They massively boosted American confidence at a time when they desperately needed it. Furthermore, it proved to the rest of the watching world, especially other powerful nations, that this young, scrappy United States was a legitimate force to be reckoned with. John Paul Jones proved that brilliant strategy and unyielding courage could actually overcome massive, massive physical odds.
Let's move on to Section 3, the power of morale.
This brilliantly illustrates our main takeaway. When we compare physical equipment, the thickness of the wood, the number of cannons, against the crew's morale, this fascinating dynamic emerges. A smaller, drastically less equipped navy actually defeated a powerful opponent because in the crucible of conflict, morale is just as important as the physical equipment. You can have the biggest, best ship in the world, but without the determination to actually fight, it is entirely useless.
The text highlights 3 vital leadership insights that we can all learn from. First, courage is contagious. When a leader displays it, the whole team catches it. Second, sharing hardships earns team loyalty. John Paul Jones didn't lead from some safe, comfortable office back on land, right? He led from the front lines. He shared the exact same life-threatening risks as his crew. When your team sees you bleeding and sweating right next to them, you earn a kind of loyalty that absolutely cannot be bought. And third, morale equals equipment in battle. The spirit of the people is a tangible, powerful weapon.
So this leaves us with an essential homework question. How can a leader actually inspire their team in difficult times? Well, it comes down to leading from the front. It's about maintaining an unshakable belief in the mission, even when your proverbial ship is taking on water. It's about having the moral courage to look at a terrifying situation and say, we have not yet begun to fight. Cultivating that inner strength is the true foundation of leadership.
And finally, Section 4, Morality and Education Combined.
This brings us to how the source material connects these grand historical events right back to our everyday lives. The HeroesMart Academy Godly Learners series presents this core philosophy: education without morality will hurt. The series argues that just being smart isn't enough if you lack a moral compass. Think of it this way. Just like a heavily armed ship needs a courageous and principled captain to guide it, an educated mind needs a strong moral foundation. Otherwise, according to this philosophy, all that knowledge can easily be used in ways that are actually destructive.
The source really challenges us to reflect on this directly. What's the point to being super smart and educated if you just continue making choices that cause harm to yourself or to others? John Paul Jones's brilliant naval tactics would have meant absolutely nothing if he didn't have the moral courage and the deep loyalty to his cause and to his men. So just as Jones needed way more than naval tactics, this curriculum suggests that intellect must be paired with character and biblical morality to truly succeed.
To wrap things up, the curriculum concludes with Romans 8:6-7, highlighting the promise of genuine peace of mind for those who keep their focus spiritual. It argues that tying a great education to a strong biblical and moral foundation essentially equips a person to face any serapeses that might show up in their own life. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. I'll leave you with this. If history proves that spirit and morale can overcome the greatest cannons in the world, what moral compass will you use to guide your own education?